You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's January the 16th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at PACERadio.net and at 420pace.ca. Just so you know, Glenn has a day off, so when that happens, sometimes I just go alone like I am today. I've got 8 stories I'm going to cover. They're from Canada, the USA. These include a delay in the USA rescheduling of cannabis, which is just, the story's just really gone off the rockers. There's a state that's going to use cannabis funds, like the tax funds that's been collected, to feed hungry kids, which is a good idea. And the city of Toronto, I'm not sure what's going on there, but they say that they have no money to go after illegal cannabis, which is where I'm going to start. There we go. First story of the day comes to me from StratCan. Headline says, "We no longer have funding for cannabis enforcement," says Toronto head of municipal licensing and standards. How could this be? Toronto's head of municipal licensing and standards says his agency no longer has the money to enforce the province's cannabis laws. In a meeting of Toronto City Council's Budget Committee on January 15th, Carlton Grant, he's the executive director of municipal licensing and standards, he told council that his agency can no longer afford to handle retail cannabis enforcement. It goes on to say that, no, actually, it's the Grant says here. He says that we no longer have the funding for cannabis enforcement. He says it's in response to a question by Jennifer McKelvey, who is a Toronto City Councillor for Scarborough Rogue Park. McKelvey was asking about provincial funding for cannabis sales to deal with enforcement, something the province provided in the first few years of legalization. That's my thought right there. My question: where's the money gone that the province has handed off? Grant says his department has received $8.5 million in funding from the province over the last 3 or 4 years, which was used to help lower the number of legal stores in the city from over 100 to less than 10. Now, he says that number of illegal stores in the city has now gone back up to about 70 stores back in the city of Toronto. He's quoted here saying, "As the industry has changed significantly, it is criminal, it is organized crime, it is not appropriate for me to send my staff into these locations where there are weapons and there is criminal activity taking place. No other city in the province of Ontario does this with bylaw enforcement. This budget signals my exit from cannabis enforcement." Wow. He says it's not safe. It says here it's not safe to send officers into these illegal establishments, and he mentioned that in the quote above. Grant added that their enforcement efforts are often not effective because these businesses can afford to keep paying the fines, and enforcement should be done by provincial police. Now, Councillor Chris Moyes, he's Ward 13, he asked Grant for more details about the efforts his department has made in coordination with Toronto Police to shut down unlicensed stores and why stores so often quickly reopen following enforcement. Grant noted that we do not go into these locations without Toronto Police. So they are working with the police. What I'm saying is we've made efforts over the last 5-6 years to close them down, to put up concrete blocks that are only to be removed within 24 hours. Yes, they have. We have boarded up buildings. We have been countersued for locking a tenant into a business. We have used every tool available to us, but what I'm saying is they are reopening because of the financial benefits to them. And what I want to stress is that we are not the right level of enforcement to do this work. No money, he doesn't want to do it anymore. He went on to say the province has identified $31 million for the OPP to do this work, and that's where it needs to go. He finally says here, the City of Toronto is where the bulk of the stores are because the population, the police and the OPP, should get the bulk of the money. Now, Toronto's 2025 budget includes $87 million in municipal licensing standards, which is a 10% increase from the previous year. Budget also includes $1.4 million for Toronto Police Services. Now, as part of Ontario's 2024 economic and fiscal outlook in brief, the provincial government committed to investing $31 million over 3 years to support the provincial joint forces cannabis enforcement teams. This investment says the government would enact the agency to respond to the challenge of illegal online operators and crack down further on the production and sales of cannabis in the online space. So yeah, they got all this money. Normally I looked at that, I always thought the police were involved in Toronto police, so on and so forth. Not just by law enforcement. Now they say the economic and fiscal outlook in brief affirms the province's previous 2024 budget, which gave $31 million for commitment. Earlier in 2024, Toronto City Council passed a motion asking the province to undertake a comprehensive review of the Provincial Cannabis Act. And the motion states that a review is imperative to ensure the effective regulation and enforcement of cannabis-related matters in Ontario. Well, hopefully they could get one quicker than we did federally. Now, municipalities need more tools and resources to address these illegal cannabis shops. And the motion read, including exploring options to strengthen enforcement measures, increase penalties for noncompliance, and improve collaboration between municipalities and provincial authorities. They say here that the illicit market in Ontario has grown considerably in the last year, and many retailers and other cannabis industry participants have been calling on the province to do more. But by some estimates, several hundred new unlicensed retailers have begun operating in different parts of Ontario, with close to 100 in Toronto alone. While some have faced enforcement, many have not, causing frustration for licensed retailers who incur numerous fees to operate with the province's approval. It goes on to say that Grant's comments to council echoed those of the Toronto cannabis store owner, Paul McGovern. He's a former police officer who stepped down in 2018 to open up a cannabis store. McGovern told Stratcan last year he believes Ontario needs more of a province-wide approach to enforcement, similar to the approach the provinces like P.A.C.E. and New Brunswick have taken. And what they're doing there is they're just going in and raiding all the stores, including the ones on the reserves. And they don't do that here in Ontario. Now, Stratcan reached out to representatives of the City of Toronto in 2024, and the response revealed a need for the province to review the Cannabis Control Act, which has not been updated since before legalization. It says here, Shane Gerard, Senior Communications Coordinator, says that in March of 2024, Toronto City Council requested the province of Ontario to undertake a comprehensive review of the Cannabis Act in consultation with municipalities, including roles and responsibilities, funding and enforcement, and addressing unlicensed cannabis establishments. And the Cannabis Act has not undergone a comprehensive review since it was introduced 7 years ago. He added the province is responsible for licensing and regulating private cannabis retail stores through the AGO, which in turn enforces the regulations. And then it closes up. The city can and does file charges against property owners who are in contravention of the Cannabis Control Act. Individuals charged can be fined $250,000 and face imprisonment for 2 years. The city also pointed out that the current Cannabis Act provides limited authority to municipal bylaw officers, which is these officers do not have arrest powers and are not permitted to train to use force while carrying out enforcement activities. This makes the enforcement of unlicensed cannabis dispensaries challenging and presents health and safety risks to their officers. Yeah, I always, anytime we do a report, it's usually the police that are going in and arresting, shutting down the stores. It's not so much the bylaw officers. I see I left my drink upstairs, but oh well, I guess I don't get a drink. Okay, on to my next story here. I'll just get that drink during break, so that won't be an issue. This is on, so don't get too pasty by then. All right, here we go. The next story. This one comes to me from Business of Cannabis, the International Business of Cannabis. The headline says, Cannabis rescheduling hearing delayed amid escalation of tensions between the DEA and other witnesses. Here we go. This is just crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. The highly anticipated hearings on cannabis rescheduling set to begin next week, which were actually supposed to begin, I think it was like December the 2nd originally. Now they've been canceled in a major escalation of tensions between the Drug Enforcement Agency and other witnesses. DEA Chief Administration Law Judge John Mulrooney yesterday ruled that the upcoming hearing would be canceled indefinitely, making room for an appeal to remove the DEA from the process amid increasing allegations of bias. Last week, Business of Cannabis reported that attorneys representing Village Farms and Hemp for Victory had submitted fresh evidence that suggests the DEA has actively worked against the proposal rule change by using outdated and legally rejected criteria to undermine cannabis medical and scientific value. Yes. Amid further allegations that the DEA has conducted inappropriate communication with anti-cannabis groups and had refused to honor a number of Judge Mulrooney's demands, the companies requested that Mulrooney allow them to file an appeal to the administrator should no action be taken. While Mulrooney rejected calls to remove the DEA as a proponent of the rescheduling proposal, he strongly criticized the agency's actions. He described the handling of the procedural rules as puzzling and grotesque, and highlighted their failure to comply with directives, including a refusal to submit hard copies of public comments as evidence. The judge also acknowledged serious concerns about allegations that DEA officials collaborated with anti-rescheduling witnesses, describing the revelations as disturbing and embarrassing. However, he stated that these issues, even if substantiated, would not justify removing DEA from the process due to statutory limitations on his authority. As such, while the DEA has not been removed, Mulrooney granted calls for an appeal to take place because he believes it could help resolve key legal issues now rather than later to avoid even greater delays, costs, or unfairness in the cannabis rescheduling process. Specifically, the judge acknowledged that the pro-reform participants raised serious concerns about how the DEA handled witness selection and communications, which could impact the fairness and outcome of the hearings. Furthermore, Mulrooney acknowledged that the change in leadership of the DEA due to the incoming administration adds uncertainty to the rescheduling process, which could further impact the timeline and decision-making as a new administrator may have a different approach to cannabis policy. The factor contributing to the decision to allow time for an appeal and avoid potential wasting resources on proceedings could be affected by the leadership change. The hearing's delay follows a series of procedural controversies, including DEA's mishandling of subpoenas and its refusal to clarify its position on the rescheduling proposal. Additionally, excluded parties, including veterans organizations such as the Veterans Action Council, who should have been there speaking, and the cannabis researchers. Like, why deny researchers? Oh, yeah, they might come out with the truth on cannabis, and have petitioned federal courts, arguing their exclusions undermines the fairness of the process. Judge Mulroney ordered updates every 90 days on the status of the interlocutor appeal. This is just crazy. Just crazy. We've been reporting on the scheduling down there, and yeah, the DEA is trying to stop it. Plain and simple. They're just trying to stop it. And, this is just for rescheduling. What are they going to do if a federal government decides to legalize it? Federally, not just statewide. That statewide stuff doesn't cut it for me. If they turn around and want to make it federal, I could just imagine the flare-ups and the screaming and yelling that would go on, and it's just might just require executive order to get it done. That's all. Just do it. Alrighty, on to my next story here. This comes to me from MJ Biz Daily. The headline there says, banking, veterans, and research top priorities for Congress new cannabis caucus chair, according to caucus chair. Now, let's hope so, because as we just saw, this rescheduling isn't going well. If the U.S. Rep Dina Titus has her way, the 119th Congress will finally pass cannabis banking reform, as well as bills easing military veterans' access to medical cannabis and researchers' abilities to study the plant. If all that sounds familiar or like a crash joke in the weeks before Groundhog Day, it should. Really, exactly. Those popular and long sought-after wins are also what the Nevada Democrat and newly minted co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus immediate processors chased after. Titus acknowledged during an interview with MJ Biz Daily. Titus, whose new caucus co-chair is fellow Democrat Rep. I am Omar of Minnesota, spoke with MJ Business only days after the newly seated Congress and voted to certify the November presidential election. With new members sworn in just after the new year, with most attention focused on the incoming president and welcoming new members to the Washington, D.C. bill introductions, and the necessary wrangling of them past will come later. Now, familiar congressional cannabis priorities. Now, that said, Titus expects members of the U.S. House of Representatives to introduce in the coming months. Let's see. The Safer Banking Act, which has been introduced and passed by the House a number of times. I think last I heard 7 times it's been passed under the Democratic leadership. The Veterans Equal Access Act, with more ambitious bills ensuring veterans access to cannabis via the Veterans Administration system to potentially follow. And the Higher Education Marijuana Research Act, which specifically allows colleges and universities to obtain cannabis and research purposes if allowed by the state or tribal government in which they are located, with nothing there mentioned about any federal legalization. The roll call of relatively modest bills and the notable absence for now of more ambitious legislation, such as nationwide legalization, is yet another reminder of how far the federal government continues to lag behind the states and other countries. In its history, Congress has managed to pass only one stand-alone cannabis bill, the Medical Marijuana and Cannabis Research Expansion Act, which passed the Democratic-controlled House in 2022 amid criticism that it did not go far enough. Since then, there's been very little progress. The Senate called on banking reform bill for a committee hearing in September of 2023, but it didn't go any further. During her interview with the MJ Biz Daily, Titus struck a states' rights tone, noting that Nevada's implementation of laws legalizing consumption lounges and tourist mecca Las Vegas, which Titus represents on Capitol Hill. I support state regulation, but there are some areas where the federal government can be involved. We need to get some things done here for the government, the federal government, to catch up to the states. Yeah, legalize it federally. Allow, why only allow some state or only have some states where it's legal and some states where it's got dragtarian laws? How is that an equally applied law across the country? It's not. And that was one reason why we changed things here in Canada. Now, former U.S. Rep. Earl Blumauer and Dana Rohrabacher, they formed the Congressional Cannabis Caucus in 2016 to help pass federal cannabis reform laws. Titus and Omar took over as Cannabis Caucus co-chairs from Blumauer and former Rep. Barbara Lee. They'll still enjoy Republican support from the likes of Ohio Rep. Dave Joyce, who has repeatedly co-sponsored and marshaled conservative support of the banking reform, and Florida Rep. Brian Mass. He's a longtime advocate for cannabis access for veterans through the VA. No other congressional reps, including far-right Trump stalwarts such as South California Rep. Nancy Mace. Yeah, she's always spoken for it. And Rep. Craig Stuber of Florida also introduced or co-sponsored cannabis reform bills. Reforming the Farm Bill to close a loophole that allows hemp-derived THC products is also on these bipartisan lawmakers' agenda. Now, as far as the Republican cannabis control, it says here that though protections from federal interference for financial institutions that do business with state-regulated cannabis businesses passed the House 7 previous times, as I said, the Safer Banking Act did not receive even a committee hearing under the Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson. How's that going, guys? Many cannabis interests are vocally disappointed with former Senate Democrat Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Safer Banking sponsor, who nevertheless declined to call the bill for a full House vote because there was inadequate Republican support to pass the 60-vote threshold necessary under the filibuster rules. But the outlook for the Senate under Republican leader John Thune doesn't look any better. Getting out of the House is always easier than the Senate, but there are members in the Senate now who were supportive of the House side before, Titus says. Yeah, because some have gone into the Senate. That includes seemingly unlikely or limited supporters, such as U.S. Senator Jim Banks, who co-sponsored banking reform while serving in the House, even though his home state has not approved any type of regulated cannabis market. Conventional wisdom has held that new states with recreational cannabis mean new supporters in Congress. Though adult use sales began in Ohio in August, voters in that state elected Bernie Moreno to the state in November, even though the Republican is a political newcomer without an established record on cannabis. He'll represent Ohio in the Senate with whomever Republican Governor Mike DeWine appoints to serve out the rest of J.D. Vance's position, because he's moved on into the vice president spot. So there you go. I don't know. Let's just hope it happens. But I don't. Unless it comes right from the top, I don't see the lawmakers doing it, because it's just been stymied all this time along the way. You know, I guess you could say maybe the one thing about it is maybe they're holding it back. So now they are in power, now the Republicans got all three levels of the government there, branches, that maybe they'll do something instead of keeping people, jailing people, and allowing states to still put draconian laws in place. What would prevent a state from putting in a law that says, let's say, let's say Arkansas, let's say you're not allowed to, let's say I don't know if cannabis isn't against the law in Arkansas, because I'm going to talk about that here in my next story. But if a state that is completely against cannabis, what prevents that state from putting in a law that prevents their citizens from consuming cannabis outside of the state? And if they come back into the state and they found with cannabis in the system, what prevents them from charging them? countries do that, but prevents a state to do that. There's no federal law there to protect anybody. Right? There's no laws that I'm aware of. Unless somebody else knows of one, let us know. But yeah. All right. Talking about Arkansas, on we go. This story comes to me from the Entrepreneur. It says Arkansas governor plans to use medical cannabis tax revenues to fund free school meals. So there you go. Arkansas has medical cannabis. Here we go. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in a recent address that she plans to use tax revenue generated by the state's medical cannabis industry to fund free meals in schools around the state. During her State of the State address on Tuesday, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said she plans to use tax revenues from medical cannabis to provide free meals at the schools. She says, I've already announced that Arkansas will participate in the summer EBT this year. And today I'm announcing my plan to use medical cannabis money to make both this program and our free lunch and breakfast programs financially sustainable for years to come. Hey, it's much better than just going into a slush fund and paying for some governor's orange juice while he's out for breakfast. This is much better. According to the State Department of Finance Administration data, medical cannabis sales in Arkansas totaled $250 million through November of 2024. And the two state taxes on medical cannabis, two of them, wow. Sales generated $28.5 million in 2024. I don't like the idea of taxing medicine myself, but because of patients. Now, Sanders suggested also using medical cannabis tax revenues for the summer EBT program in an effort to end the state's grocery tax, which she refers to as the state's most regressive. There were over 109,000 medical cannabis patient cards issued in Arkansas. Voters approved the medical cannabis law in November of 2016, and medical cannabis sales carry a 6.5% sales tax, which is currently used for public school funding and efforts to combat food insecurity in the state. Wow, it's just not going to slush fund, and it's just not going to law enforcement. Both good things. It's helping, the kids need it, man. Kids need it. There's no doubt about that. All righty. I am at the halfway point, and I'm at the halfway part of the program, too, at the bottom of the hour. Time for me to take a break, for me to medicate, and for me to go get a drink as well. You're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at PACERadio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACERadio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at PACERadio.net? People advocating cannabis education. Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. And I'm back from my medication session, and you're live with Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I got 4 more stories. I think 2 of them are studies. So we'll get started at that right away. Here we go. From Marijuana Moment, it says that legalizing marijuana leads to decrease in the use of prescription anxiety medication. The study shows. People are always saying we need more studies. Here we go. So we get the studies out so people know that, hey, there is a study out there. Now, in states where both medical and recreational cannabis are legal, fewer patients are filling prescriptions for medications used to treat anxiety. That is the key finding of my recent study published in the journal JAMA Network Open. Now, this must be from the author of that study. It says that I have applied policy researcher. Yes, there you go. Who studies the economics of risky behaviors and substance use within the United States. My collaborators and I wanted to understand how medical and recreational cannabis laws and cannabis dispensary openings have affected the rate in which patients fill prescriptions for anti-anxiety medications among people who have private medical insurance. You know, it's just like they've shown that cannabis has been able to reduce opiate prescriptions where it's legal for them to do so. So here we go. Benzodiazepines, which work for increasing the levels of gamma, a good word there. They're a neurotransmitter that elicits a calming effect by reducing anxiety in the nervous system. This category includes depressants, Valium, Xanax, and Ativan, and among others. And antipsychotics, that's a class of drug that addresses psychotic symptoms in a variety of ways. Antidepressants, which relieve symptoms of depression by affecting neurotransmitters such as serotonin, another big word, and dopamine. The most well-known example of these is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. That's usually what I hear is SSRIs. They've also included barbiturates, which are sedatives and sleep medications, sometimes called Z drugs, both of which are used to treat insomnia. In contrast to other 3 categories, we did not estimate any policy impacts for either of these types of drugs. It says that we find consistent evidence that increased cannabis access is associated with the reductions in benzodiazepine Prescription fills. Fills refer to the number of prescriptions being picked up by patients rather than the number of prescriptions doctors write. This is based on calculating the rate of individual patients who use the prescription in a state, the average days of supply per prescription fill, and average prescriptions filled per patient. Notably, we found that not all state policies lead to similar changes in prescription fill patterns. Now, in 2021, nearly 23% of the adult U.S. population reported having a diagnosable mental health disorder. Yet, only 65% of those individuals reported receiving treatment within the last year. This lack of treatment can exacerbate current mental health disorders, leading to increased risk of additional chronic conditions. And cannabis access introduces an alternative treatment to traditional prescription medication that may provide easier access for some patients. Many state medical laws allow patients with mental health disorders, such as post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, to use medical cannabis, while recreational laws expand access to all adults. Yeah. Now, it says here that our findings have important implications for insurance systems, prescribers, policymakers, and patients. Benzos use, like opioid use, can be dangerous for patients, especially when the two classes of drugs are used together. Given the high level of opioid poisonings that also involve benzos in 2020, they made up 14% of total opioid overdose deaths. Our findings offer insights into potential substitution with cannabis for medications where misuse is possible or plausible. Cannabis substitution programs, people. Now, our report, he says, does not clarify whether the changes in dispensing patterns lead to measurable changes in patient outcomes. It'd be nice to know if there is. There is some evidence that cannabis acts as an effective anxiety treatment. If this is the case, moving away from benzo use, which is associated with significant negative side effects, towards cannabis use may improve patient outcomes. And this finding is critical, given that about 5% of the U.S. population is prescribed benzos. Substituting cannabis laws has the potential to result in fewer negative side effects nationwide, but it's not yet clear if cannabis will be equally effective at treating anxiety. And it says here, our study also found evidence of a slight, albeit somewhat less significant, increase in antipsychotic and antidepressant dispensing, but it's not clear yet whether cannabis access, particularly recreational access, increases rates of psychotic disorders and depression. All right, watching my time. Story's getting long, so I'm going to shut that down. But yeah, it's good to see if it can reduce prescriptions, medications, especially benzos. I remember watching cannabis documentary. And I'm just trying to get the name off the top of my head. It's right there on the end of my tongue. But Culture High. And Jared is in the young lad in there, and he's like 7 years old, and his dad's on the phone to addiction people, asking how he can help get his 7-year-old sons off of benzos. And the addiction place was just flabbergasted how a 7-year-old would be on benzos. Just so bad. Not right at all. Alrighty, here we go. On to my next story. This comes to me from Gotcha Entrepreneur. Headline says, Portland dispensary facing lawsuit after customer experiences THC overdose. Okay, hang on here. Really? Okay, let's find out. Now, it says a man is suing the Portland, Oregon cannabis dispensary Arcana for $10,000 after he says he was recommended an excessively potent cannabis product that landed him in the emergency room. The plaintiff in the suit, who is Guy Fitzgerald, claims that an employee of the shop, despite being informed that Fitzgerald was a novice consumer, recommended that he purchase an exclusively potent THC syrup. When Fitzgerald got home, per the employee's advice, he followed the directions on the bottle and consumed about a teaspoon of the syrup, or about 40 milligrams of THC. according to the suit. Now, 40 milligrams to a lot of consumers isn't an issue, but I have seen people consume 10 milligrams and say, holy smokes, am I too fucking high, right? So 40 to a novice consumer can be excessive. He ultimately went to the emergency room for symptoms, including muscle spasm, psychomotor agitation, elevated heart rate, extreme discomfort, shortness of breath, nausea, vomiting, hypokalemia, and muscular paralysis. And the doctors there diagnosed him with THC overdose, the lawsuit says. The shop's managing director, Chris Snyder, said in the report that because the product purchased by Fitzgerald had been approved by the OLCC, Arcana couldn't be held at fault for Fitzgerald's bad experience. Additionally, he said bud tenders have no way of knowing customers' tolerance levels, and the bud tender who sued Fitzgerald that recommend only taking a few drops of the syrup. Now, at the end of the day, it's like going to a bar and asking a bartender how much alcohol is going to get me drunk. You don't hear of anybody suing the bar because someone got drunk, Snyder says. Notably, Oregon state law requires cannabis edibles to carry a maximum serving size of 10 milligrams, but the rules don't explicitly address serving size limits of cannabis tinctures, concentrates, or extracts, which the syrup product could have fallen under. So there you go. I wonder, we'll have to see what goes on. I'll have to keep an eye on that to see if the fellow is successful. Because, yeah, as I said, do bars get charged when someone gets drunk? And like, I know bars can get charged if a customer leaves and gets into an accident and stuff like that. I know that can happen. But I don't know of them, anybody ever getting say, hey, you got me drunk, I'm going to sue you. But alrighty. On to my next story. This one comes to me from StratCan. It says, navigating dementia, exploring the potential of cannabis in care. It's good. Good to see. Another study. Now, January marks Alzheimer's Awareness Month, a time to reflect on the growing impact of dementia on individuals and families across Canada. The numbers are frankly alarming. Over 700,000 Canadians are currently living with this condition, and projections suggest that the number could double by 2050. Now, I wouldn't doubt it. We've had family members that have dealt with dementia, and yeah, it's not fun. It's not just the memory loss. For many with moderate to severe Alzheimer's, agitation and aggression, correct, become a daily struggle, deeply affecting both the individuals themselves and those who care for them. As a pharmacist, I've witnessed these struggles firsthand and seen the frustration when conventional treatments just don't seem to make enough of a difference. It's in this context that the potential role of cannabis has begun to spark interest and raise important questions. The connection between cannabinoids and dementia is still a developing area of research, but some promising findings has emerged. As a pharmacist, I find it particularly intriguing to see studies exploring cannabinoids' potential to address challenging symptoms like agitation and aggression in Alzheimer's patients. For example, in 2018, a study conducted at Sunnybrook Health Services Center demonstrated that nabilone, the synthetic cannabinoid, significantly reduced agitation in patients, with a 47% decrease compared to a 26 or 23% reduction in the placebo group. A more recent 2024 study from Johns Hopkins and Tufts Universities found that dronabinol, another synthetic cannabinoid, showed similar benefits in reducing agitation with fewer side effects than traditional antipsychotics. While these early studies give a glimmer of hope, they also emphasize the need for cautious, informed application of cannabinoids in dementia care, given the complexity of the effects on the brain. Cannabinoids interact with the brain affected by Alzheimer's in unique and sometimes unpredictable ways. While many people turn to cannabis for its calming properties, dementia patients may experience adverse effects such as a heightened confusion or excess sedation. As a pharmacist, I've seen firsthand how these complexities require thoughtful considerations and a tailored approach. That's why I advocate for pharmacist-led guidance with exploring the use of cannabis. With our clinical training and understanding of both conventional and alternative therapies, pharmacists are uniquely positioned to ensure cannabis is used safely, effectively, and in alignment with the specific needs of each patient. At Aptocare, this is my co-founder, okay, a fellow University of Toronto trained pharmacist, and I are dedicated to closing the gap between traditional and alternative medicine. As a pharmacist, we understand the complexities of incorporating cannabis into the patient care, and we're passionate about empowering patients and caregivers to make informed decisions. Our approach is rooted in evidence-based cannabis education, ensuring that any use of cannabis is accompanied by the close monitoring and plan tailored to each patient's unique needs. We see ourselves as trusted navigators, helping patients and their families understand the intricacies of cannabis through therapy and prioritizing safety and efficacy every step of the way. Now, I didn't see who wrote this, but I wonder if I know who this writer is, because I've talked to a pharmacist who's doing research on cannabis. So I wonder if this is him. I don't know. I can tell you right there. I can see his name at the bottom, and no, it's not the same fella. Now, the conversation around cannabis for wellness purposes is constantly evolving. Canada is playing a key role in this ongoing research. While initial findings on cannabinoids and their potential to improve quality of life for dementia patients are preliminary, it's important to remember that more research is needed. We need larger scale studies to really establish best practices and robust safety guidelines. That said, even the limited research done so far offers some encouragement. Now, for anyone considering cannabis a potential treatment option, he says that he urges them to have a thorough conversation with your healthcare provider. I know I did. It's about making informed decisions, weighing the potential benefits against the risk, and ensuring proper oversight. With the right approach, grounded in education, careful monitoring, and personalized care, cannabinoids could potentially become a valuable tool in our effort to provide better care and better quality of life for those living with this challenging condition. That cannabinoid therapy, for sure. I know, and as I said, talk to your doctor. And I mentioned that I know I did. I had more than one talk with my doctor. He was initially said no, and he told me the benefits before I even said any of them. And he said no, he wanted to try conventional medicine first. And once I was at the top end of that, I asked again, and there was no problem whatsoever. So he asked some questions. I don't know how it affected me, and there was the benefits I felt, and so on and so forth. And signed my paperwork. So, alrighty, on to my last story of the day, and this comes to me from the Marijuana Moment. It says that the FDA seeks veterinarians' input on the use of CBD and other cannabis products in animals. That's got to be good news. Now, the Food and Drug Administration is asking for comments from veterinarians and the broader public about the use of cannabis-derived products, in particular CBD, in animals. The agency wants to know more about usage, trends, potential drug interactions, quality of standards, and other issues related to the veterinary use of cannabinoids. Hey, this is for Ollie Dog. Our friends at Ollie Dog, they make a CBD oil for dogs and cats. Now, the comment period opens on Thursday and ends on April 16th, according to the FDA request for information posted on the Federal Reserve this week, or register this week. Now, it says here, the focus of this RFI is on CBD products and other products derived from hemp. The FDA is interested in general trends associated with these products, such as information about usage trends, quality standards, benefits of use, potential drug interactions, adverse effects and safety problems, and toxicology concerns. The input is meant to help inform the Center of Veterinary Medicine knowledge of potential safety signals associated with these products In addition to aiding our understanding of veterinarians' experiences related to the use of cannabis-derived products for their animal patients. While comments can be submitted unanimously, the post says CFMs is particularly interested in input from practicing veterinarians whose expertise and experience can help inform the FDA regarding the use of and effect of the CDPs in animals. Now, let's hope the FDA doesn't do what the DEA is doing. That's for sure. Now, it says the FDA is gathering information related to the use of CDPs in animals, and it continues with an emphasis on CBD products. Just CBD, folks. Now, the RFI is focused primarily on low THC hemp products, which have proliferated since the federal legalization of hemp through the 2018 Farm Bill, and as a result, CBD's popularity among human consumers and medical patients. Now, the FDA has made the regulation of the CBD market a priority, including products marketed for animals, the RFI says. It continues with, while there is some limited published information about the use of CDPs in animals as cannabis-derived products, significant data gaps exist surrounding many aspects of CBD and CDP in animals. Though no animal products containing CBD have been approved by the FDA, the Post notes that in some circumstances, veterinarians can lawfully prescribe drugs approved for human use, such as purified CBD epidiolecs to treat conditions in animals. The agency also acknowledges that plenty of other non-FDA approved products are already widely available. The agency also says the firms marketing CBD products for use in non-human animals often make claims regarding a wide variety of diseases or conditions. Some products are also purported to enhance general wellness and promote longevity. The new RFI says products are marketed in many different formulations, such as tinctures, oils, treats, chews, pellets for large animals, capsules, and sometimes as food toppers or infused in food, such as peanut butter. Topical products infused with CBD, such as balms and shampoos, are also available for pets. Sounds like the FDA is getting caught up here. Products are not intended for use in the cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of diseases in animals, the regulatory agency emphasized. And these are animal drugs. Among the questions the FDA has for veterinarians include how clients discuss cannabis products. For example, if asked, do they generally distinguish between the products derived from hemp versus those derived from cannabis? Or do they ask about hemp products, marijuana products, or do they not specify? What brands, if known, and formulations or types of products do clients ask about? Tinctures, treats, capsules, topicals, etc. The agency also wants to know whether veterinarians have prescribed or dispensed approved cannabis-based drugs, such as the aforementioned Epilox, or synthetics like Marinol, Syndrose, I never heard of that, or Sesame, in animal patients, and if so, the species and the condition the drug was meant to treat. It also asks generally whether veterinarians would recommend cannabinoid products to clients, encouraging them to elaborate on why or why not. Well, none of the FDA questions in the new RFI ask directly about observed benefits from administering cannabinoid products to animals. Why wouldn't they want to know about the benefits? They do ask for details of adverse effects. Oh, yes, that's normal. They would just search for the bad stuff, as well as observed drug interactions. A few also ask specifically about questions or concerns veterinarians have about cannabis-derived treatments. I'm disappointed about that. Why would it? Don't want to know the benefits. Jesus Christ. That just sounds like this. Now we're back to that DEA situation. Since the legalization of hemp, FDA's Cannabis Products Committee has worked to develop and implement cross-agency policies that regulate cannabis products, specifically CBD. Some critics, however, have complained that the agency's progress on the front has been slow. Yeah. Among veterinarians and pet owners alike, CBD has been growing in popularity. Last year, for example, the National Animal Supplement Council promoted a study that it said showed that CBD is safe for long-term use in dogs. The study, also published in the journal Frontiers of Veterinary Science, found that a variety of cannabinoids, including CBD, CBDA, and CBG, were well tolerated in healthy dogs at a dose of 5 milligrams per kilogram of weight per day. Geez, they even got dosing. We don't even have that for humans yet. Cannabinoids were well tolerated when healthy male and female beagles were dosed for 90 consecutive days. Based on the data available, it would be the conclusion of the authors that the substances do not pose a significant risk to dogs in long-term use. A separate study last year of 6 cases of CBD given to dogs found that the cannabinoid may help counteract the ill effects of accidental THC consumption. There you go, cannabis being used to help animals who have consumed cannabis. The paper looked at 6 cases of non-medical consumption, THC toxicities, in dogs. 5 of those were treated exclusively with transmucosal CBD sheets that dissolve on the dog's upper or inner lips or gums. We reported on that story here. In less than an hour, all the clinical signs of THC intoxication had been noticeably reduced in 5 or 6 dogs, the study said. Clinical signs of toxicities, meanwhile, were completely resolved for 3 of the 6 cases within 28 hours of the CBD. Authors said reducing the cost of treating THC toxicities is especially important, given that the cases of accidental cannabis exposure has been increasing in recent years, and the inability to afford emergency services is a leading barrier to accessing veterinary care in both the United States and Canada. And another recent study found that cannabis appears to be a viable alternative treatment option for dogs suffering from common skin disease, especially if they experience adverse side effects from conventional steroid therapies. Another, published in 2023, found that dogs that receive daily doses of CBD see significant reductions in stress and anxiety related to car travel. Other studies have studied benefits of CBD, such as reduced frequency of seizures among dogs who receive the cannabinoid. And a study published in 2018 found dogs with arthritis see improvements with CBD treatments. Last August, the U.S. Department of Agriculture found that cows that are fed hemp seed cake retain very low concentrations of THC and CBD in their bodies, indicating that meat products from hemp-fed cattle are safe for human consumption. And, maybe if that got back into human consumption, there'd be less autoimmune diseases. Another federal funded study published in 2022 found that feeding cows help reduces their stress. Researchers also looked into how CBD affects stress and pain in horses. There you go. So, if you know any veterinarians out there in the U.S., tell them, hey, that you're using cannabinoid therapy on animals. Tell them about this study. And just so you know, you can find it on the Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News Facebook page, and you can just go right to there, or you go to Marijuana Moment and look there, because, our furry friends and others can benefit from cannabinoid therapy, and why not give it to them if you can help them, right? Okay, people, other than that, I'm done for the day. I covered all my stories. So, other than that, from the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the P.A.C.E News Report for January the 16th, and thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Legacy420.com, Limestone City High, Hydroponics.ca, and At-Eze.ca. In closing, weed. I like to say thank you for watching, or, maybe listening. But other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and please do not incarcerate. That's why you need to federally legalize cannabis in the U.S., not the statewide stuff. Do it the right way, folks. Talk to you all Monday. That's right. Monday. We'll see you Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.